chance to drive off in a brand new electric vehicle and support a nonprofit? Well, one of the best nonprofits fighting for clean energy is running their 7th annual EV raffle for the planet, and it's their biggest yet. Here are 3 reasons why you should buy a ticket today to support our friends at the CCAN Action Fund. Number 1, amazing odds. For the first time, each ticket gives you 3 chances to win an electric car. Even better, only 10,000 tickets will be sold. Those are great odds. Reason number 2, the prizes are stunning. The grand prize winner gets to pick from 6 luxury EVs. The rugged R1S, the powerful R1T, the brand new Lucid Gravity, the sleek Lucid Air, the bold Porsche Macan EV, or the iconic Porsche Taycan. Yeah, and those are all great cars, and again, you get to pick which one. The second place winner gets to choose from a Volkswagen ID Buzz or a Hyundai Ioniq 5. And there's a third place winner, a Chevy Equinox EV. Even better, the group will cover state and federal taxes. Oh, but what about tariffs? Well, no problem, they cover those too. Reason number 3, the CCAN Action Fund supports clean energy nationwide. So you could win a great EV and support a greener world. It really is kind of a win-win. To enter, check out www.evraffle.org. That's evraffle.org, or simply click the link in the description below. Tickets are only $200. Enter to win today.
So big news coming out of the Rivian front, and I could think of no better person in order to help put this into perspective than Jose from Rivian Tracker. Jose, welcome to Out of Spec Bits.
Thanks, Walter. How are you?
Doing well. We're definitely going to have you on the frequent flyer program here and punch your card multiple times to get the special bonus
I love
points.
it.
Yeah.
I love it. Love it. Always love you guys at Out of Spec.
Before we get started, do I understand correctly that you recently changed which Rivian you're using as your daily driver?
Yeah, so back in November of last year, I upgraded from a Gen 1 R1T quad to a Gen 2 tri-motor R1T as well. Love it. And actually, even more recent than that, literally, I mean, less than 2 weeks ago, we actually added to our fleet here in the house a 2025 R1S dual motor for my wife. And so that is her daily driver now. And so now we are a full Rivian household.
Any complaints
covering both basements. Say again?
Any complaints from her?
No, she loves it. I mean, well, so I think the one, and I did we did a little short video actually talking about this on my channel, but for her, I think she misses CarPlay the most, like Apple CarPlay, because she came from Ioniq 5 and that had CarPlay, but also the Ioniq 5 had really bad software. And so it needed CarPlay, whereas Rivian software is much better. And while it's still not like, on par with like Tesla, we're getting there. That's her biggest thing. But other than that, she's like, it's her favorite car she's ever owned and she loves it. So we're now rocking 2 Teslas, or 2 Rivians, I should say.
Yeah, and I found that the lack of CarPlay was something that I thought I would miss more than in practicality. At least I found that I transitioned away from CarPlay without much pain. It just it's a muscle memory sort of reaction that you just have to get used to. And once you go a couple of weeks, I don't know, I don't find that much of a difference. And actually, my Volvo got it. They added CarPlay kind of like after the fact with an over-the-air update. And I was like, okay, it's there, but I'm just kind of fine with the in-dash navigation. And also there was the recent addition to Rivians. Did you get the update that does the in-dash Google?
Yeah. So I got a chance to play with it a little bit early and did a video on it.
Oh, okay.
And and so now we have Google Maps has been brought over to Rivian navigation natively. That is a big change because previously they were using a piece of software called Mapbox, which was like this open source thing, and it was okay. But, for a startup company like Rivian, it was a great, asset to have because they didn't have the money at the time to really license out Google Maps because that is a expensive license to deal with. And but as ownership has grown and it needed a better mapping system and a mapping solution because that just wasn't it. And so now we've migrated over to Google Maps. And I mean, personally, I think it is a huge step up. It is not perfect. There are still things that have to be adjusted and other features that people would love to see. Maybe there's a lot of features from like Waze. If you're familiar with Waze, like police notifications or like red light cameras and stuff like that, that I think Google has been slowly integrating into the native Google Maps app, on iOS and Android. And so I think it would be really cool to see some of that stuff come over to the Rivian Google Maps app. But just as a starting point, being able to get live traffic updates, which sounds like a no-brainer, but we didn't really have that, right? And so now we do. Alternative routes and like proper good route planning is a huge win for Rivian owners, and so I think that's a huge step forward.
Yeah, one thing I was going to say that I noticed when I was in my Volvo XC40 Recharge with Android Automotive was that the GOM for traveling was eerily accurate. It was tremendously accurate. So I don't know if they have the GOM baked in for travel with the new Google Maps as well, or is there still?
Yeah, I think it's still like a work in progress, but I will say, like, it for what they have thus far, it's really darn accurate, So I think they're definitely getting close, and I have the opportunity to talk to a lot of the tech folks at Rivian, and so I know there's a lot more things coming. They won't share that information with me, but I just know that they're continuing to make this better, and it's only going to improve. And so I'm really excited to see where that goes. And I know in coming future updates here, relevant to you, Walter, is that they're going to be adding more charging stations. So like we'll see Iona pop up on there as well natively, and many, many others, because that right now, that's the issue right now, is that not all these charging stations are on the Rivian Nav. So
I got you. So it'll be easy to take trips with third-party CPOs for stations in order to select for stops. And to go back to the original question about the current upgrade of your car, the Gen 2, I was watching a YouTube video talking about some of the distinctions. Is it the ADAS features that are more advanced on Gen 2, or what do you get with Gen 2? It's very brief. I know it's kind of off topic from what we're here for.
No, you're fine. Yeah, you're fine. With Gen 2, the biggest upgrades were the cameras, right? So we got upgraded to these 4K HDR, high dynamic range cameras that are like some of the highest in the industry, like in terms of quality. And so with that came along the Rivian Autonomy platform, which is Rivian's answer to autonomy. When Generation 1 vehicles launched, they had a mobile eye, kind of like off-the-shelf, ADAS tool, right, platform. And it was fine. It did what it needed to do, right? Lane centering and adaptive cruise control, and it worked on Rivian's pre-mapped roads, right? So like most highways were mapped, and for the most part, you still had to keep your hands on the wheel, and it did a pretty good job. That being said, Rivian had, we have to be honest. I love Rivian, but we have to be truthful about some things. They overpromised when Gen 1 came out, saying that it would be able to do level 3 autonomy, right? And all that fun stuff. And none of that clearly was possible with Gen 1. And so Gen 2 introduced a in-home, in-house designed autonomy platform, right? Hardware, NVIDIA powered GPUs for AI and processing, as well as autonomy processing, and some help from Mobileye as well, still with some of their stuff. So now we have the ability to do hands-off, right? There's now Rivian's launched hands-off on certain highways. So you don't even have to, you're just paying attention to the road. There's a driver camera inside the mirror, the rear view mirror, that's watching you. And so as long as you're paying attention to the road, you can keep your hands off. And a couple months back, I had the chance to interview James Philbin, who's the VP of Autonomy at Rivian. And he kind of gave us a really cool insight that they plan to, by the end of this year, get rid of that mapped road limitation. So you'll be able to kind of do all this on all type of roads. And then RJ, CEO of Rivian, has said that by 2026, the goal is to be able to introduce eyes off for certain areas. We shall see if they can keep to that. I'm not going to hold my breath too much on that because it's hard. It's not easy. Look at Tesla. They're a big, they're big in this full self-driving scene, and they're only starting to really get it, I think, perfect. Sure, Tesla people will come at me for saying something like that because they're like, it's perfect. It's not perfect, but so anyways, yeah, all that to say
impressive.
It's really impressive, yeah. But Rivian has really stepped their game up when it came to really like just the ADAS technology behind it. And then, of course, other little things were I say little, but the reduction of ECUs in the vehicle, right? Going down to only 7 ECUs in the vehicle. That's a huge reduction in weight, wiring, and all that because they're using their in-house built architectural zonal platform. And all that is part of why I think Volkswagen was so interested in Rivian, and that's why that joint venture also came to be, kind of tying into that.
Yeah. OEMs are notorious for doing a smorgasbord of components that just lead to complicated assembly and maintenance, and simplifying it using
Yeah.
someone who's got a big picture approach like Rivian just makes good common sense. We can get into that in just a second. But first, the
Yep.
reason we're here this evening is because, as I understand, some NACS ports have been found in California. Can you give us the skinny of what's going on there?
Yeah, so Rivian has been really updating all of their Rivian Adventure Network locations with what we want to call the version 1.5 dispensers, right?
The
And
taller
these
ones.
are the tall ones, right?
Yeah.
I'm 6'3". I stood next to one of these,
Dang.
and like, this is massive, and they're big boys, so they're really awesome. They have a new screen on the side, a tap. You just have to tap your Apple Pay or Google Pay or credit card, and then you can just start paying. So there's no app needed, unless you're a Rivian owner and you just plug in and you're good to go. And so all of these have been rolling out with CCS. And there was a lot of question as to, well, Rivian's transitioning over to use NACS here eventually. And now, they are in 2026 with their 2026 model year cars.
Oh, I didn't know
And
that. So they've already put some cars on the road that have NACS?
yeah, so the new Gen 2 quad motor R1T and R1S that was announced last week, actually, is now slowly rolling out to the road. There's a couple of them already on the road that are owned by people, and those come with native NACS. And so you can now just go to any V3 or V4 Tesla charger and plug in technically without the need of a adapter.
Very interesting.
Yep. And so now we found out today that Joshua Tree in California, which is one of the outposts that Rivian has, it's one of their very popular outposts, has rolled out NACS to half of the. So there's 8 cabinets there, and half of those are now rocking CCS, and the other half is rocking NACS. So
Dang.
you can show up there, and any vehicle can use this. Is open to all EVs, not just Rivian. They can show up there and plug in and pick your poison, right? Pick your poison there, and all of these are capable of dispensing 300 kilowatt max. So you're gonna get a good power. 300 kilowatts is definitely more than any Rivian vehicle can accept. We max out typically at 220 on a good day. So 300 will definitely be nice for some other vehicles for sure. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at. And with that, Rivian will now be rolling out slowly across the nation to all their Rivian Adventure Networks. This as you can see here on the map, if you're watching the video.
Speaking of which, yeah, so interesting. So there are Rivians that have native NACS ports, which I was unaware that they're already starting to manufacture ones.
Yep.
And they're opening their Rivian Adventure Network to non-Rivians, and the ones that are in white for people who are viewing are the ones, correct me if I'm wrong, Jose, are the ones that are actually open to non-Rivian.
All EVs.
All EVs, yeah. So there's a good number of those that are toting around native J3400 ports. For instance, the Hyundai new Ioniq 5, I believe, the 2025 Ioniq 5, maybe it's 2026, has a native NACS inlet. And just an increasing number. There was word of one Cadillac coming out. I forgot which one it was, but the dominoes will start falling at General Motors here pretty soon. We're not sure exactly when, and others. So I'm not quite sure. Is there any communication from Rivian if the indication of going NACS at their Rivian Adventure Network stations is to accommodate Rivians with native NAC ports, or all EVs and Teslas, or do we know what their thought is here, or are we just left to read the tea leaves?
Yeah, so Rivian hasn't really put out anything about this, and that's as of right now, right? So it's July 22nd. As of July 22nd at 7 p.m. Eastern, Rivian hasn't really talked about this, right? Like, the only way we really truly know that this started happening is because I got a press release from Rivian about an upcoming outpost, a Rivian outpost in the Hamptons and out in New York, Southampton, New York. Not to be rude, but it's a very hoity-toity area, so it's, people who will buy these six-figure Rivians will definitely enjoy going there. And it's very pretty, gorgeous, and all that. But I caught, a note in the press release that said, this location will be retrofitted with CCS and native NACS, so you don't need an adapter. I was very curious about that, so I started going through the Rivian app. This location's not open yet, but I checked the other outposts that do exist, which is Yosemite and Joshua Tree. And I noticed Joshua Tree had some NACS, and like we talked a little bit earlier. And so I reached out to Rivian. I was like, hey, you got anything more to share on this? And pretty much all they said is that they're going to be starting rollout of NACS, and it seems to be a very easy swap of the cable or even just the head. I'm not 100% certain on the technicality of that. They didn't go into those details when I asked. And so they'll be slowly transitioning to kind of have both, right? So you'll have CCS and NACS. Now, Walter, between you and I think the obvious easy choice would have been to do something like Tesla did with the Magic Dock, right? But clearly, Rivian found that it's just going to be better to, have half and half, kind of like how Iona does it, right? Iona has their CCS adapter, charging spots, and their NACS charging spots.
So, yeah, the whole adapter question is, I guess, going to be the new normal, I guess, for the foreseeable future. I don't think we're getting out of adapter hell for the next half decade. So it just is what it is. And one of the unfortunate things when they start swapping out cables, that if there's one, so the stall, in the case of RAN, each dispenser is one stall, but it's not uncommon where you post up to a station and there's one dispenser with two handles. And what is happening in some places, they're swapping out one handle for NACS and one handle for CCS. But depending on where your charge inlet is, that may or may not be convenient, because your charge port door might be on the wrong side for what adapter or for what handle you want. And so I wish there was an easy answer, but unfortunately it looks like complexity. And as you say, Tesla definitely has a elegant solution with the way to retract depending on what type of car you have. Also charge point with what they call the OmniDock ability to put a correct connector on whatever car you have. But absent those, I just think we're going to be in a bit of have to learn and be patient as time goes on, because each CPO seems to be wanting to put in a certain number of handles that are altered between the two different standards. But one thing I wanted to touch on, you mentioned VW injecting cash into Rivian, and also Rivian giving a fair amount in return with the intellectual property that they have concerning is it ADAS basically what they're looking for, or is it what type of technology does VW get from this deal?
Yeah, so VW gets a couple of things. They get the software, so like the actual software that Rivian has been building on their vehicles. So, for a long time, I'm sure long time out of spec viewers and listeners know about, I think it's Car ID or whatever it was the Volkswagen software division group, right, that built VW software, and they had a lot of issues with that. It was not great, and so I think part of this joint venture is obviously VW cars will get the opportunity to run, some sort of variant of Rivian software on them. But also part of that is it's not just the software, it is a hardware side of things. So this zonal architecture that Rivian has built, right, where you have the reduction of ECUs in the vehicles down to, I think, 7, if I recall correctly. And so simplifying that hardware alongside the software is going to be really a big sticking and selling point for VW, right? And I forgot off the top of my head which car it was, but there is a car coming out to Europe. It's a small VW, affordable EV coming out that's going to be one of the first to have the Rivian architectural network and the software.
I didn't know it was that far along. Interesting.
Yep. And so they're making good headway, and I think we'll see Audi, Porsche, the bigger luxury brands will probably start getting, the nice fancy software and the nice zone architecture. But once it starts, dribbling down the pipeline to like the affordable EVs and all that, or their current lineup, it should make, potentially driving an ID4 a better experience. But
so on the flip side of that, Rivian, let's just say they get a sack of coin that they receive from VW, and obviously is much more complex than that. But can they take that and spend that wherever they want? I mean, you're more familiar with the going-ons at Rivian than I am. And the reason I ask is because what I've been seeing over the past 6 months is they've been spending some crazy money on their stations. Like you say, the 1.5 version 1.5 station retrofits that all these white dots are basically necessitating has occurred. So people have been out there with forklifts or front loaders or whatever and ripping out dispensers and putting in new ones. That costs some serious coin in order to get done. And I'm wondering if the VW partnership is somewhat to be the source of the funding for the mass upgrade of the nationwide network. Plus, I'm seeing stations still continually open. So it's like they're patting their head and rubbing their stomach. And now we're seeing NACS retrofits coming on as well. And all of this has got to come from a pile of cash somewhere. So I don't know. Are there any restrictions on the VW money or?
Yeah, so to my understanding, there isn't. And so they can kind of use that, wherever they see fit. For Rivian, it's given us cash and they'll use it for whatever it may need. And then Walter, exactly to your point, I think that Rivian is a young company, right? They only started building out the Rivian Adventure Network a couple of years ago. And I found it very odd that so quickly they would turn around to remove what they had put in to upgrade, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
in really fast speed. I'm talking like months.
We are, yeah. So I want to talk about that for a second, but here's a fun statistic. So 63% of the Rivian Adventure Network that you showed on that map there has already been converted to that 1.5 version that we're talking about, meaning they're open to all EVs. And so I think Rivian quickly is trying to make this a source of revenue. And so they want to throw as much money in as possible so that they can then turn around and charge people. And we haven't even gotten to the point, a very big sticking point with the Rivian Adventure Network, which is it's not cheap to charge there. Like we're talking upwards of the high 50 cents a kilowatt for Rivian owners, low 60 cents for non-Rivian owners. Like that is expensive. But when you don't really have another, if you don't have another choice, you're going to use it. And so I think that's what Rivian's really betting on. I'm actually working. Here's a little sneak peek for you guys here. But I'm working next week to have an interview up on Rivian Tracker, my YouTube channel, with Sarah. She runs the Rivian Adventure Network department over at Rivian. And we're going to have I'm hoping to get a little bit of time with her and talk about just really the rollout, seeing the 1.5, kind of talk a little bit exactly about what we just talked about. Is like, what was the logic behind that? It definitely seems like Rivian changed their strategy in terms of how they wanted to do the Adventure Network to what it originally was, which was, hey, we're going to put them at, national parks and, you'll be able to go off, be able to go off-roading or be able to whatever, to now like, we're going to put them at major highways and shopping centers because the reality is that's where people really are going to use them and want them.
But I see them at places that, although they're in shopping centers, at entry points into other areas. For instance, the Outer Banks of North Carolina is one place where it's recently got a Rivian Adventure Network station, and also Norfolk, Virginia, which is the Chesapeake Bay Bridge, which goes into Delaware up there, which is pretty open country for roaming in a Rivian as well. So maybe they're staying true to the roots, but as you say, it's
a combination, I think. Yeah. I think that those are important to have, to your point. And but at the same time, having a bunch of Rivian Adventure Network sites off of I-95 is also really important to them.
Yep.
And like I look at the example, I go up from, I'm in Orlando, I go up to North Carolina a lot. And one of my favorite stops is Pooler, Georgia, right? That's in a big shopping plaza there. And there's a Tesla charger there, but there's a Rivian Adventure Network, and I charge there all the time. And it's great because there's a lot of food options that I can walk to. and I can use a bathroom and all that needs to be done, and it's a great place. But on the flip side, I completely understand the need for wanting to have a Rivian Adventure Network site in a more rural location, right? I.e., Yosemite, right, where there really isn't much, or Joshua Tree, where there's a supercharger, a couple miles away, but maybe that's the only option, and now you have a couple more options. And so that's really it. But yeah, so definitely working on that Sarah interview. So I'll definitely share it and post it online when we get to. But I really want to talk to them about just a whole strategy because I think it's really unique.
Many questions in a developing story. So Jose, much appreciated for coming on to help providing a little bit of clarity. And as you say, the Rivian Adventure Network, much interest for what will unfold in the coming months and years. And I see their current trajectory is very ambitious. And by all accounts, they're going to be one of the major players in the years to come. Jose, much appreciated for coming on to Out of Spec Bits.
Of course. Thanks, Walter. Take care.